Hey, how's it going? This is Ryan West. You're on iStandardProducers.com. Keep it right here.
Now, Ryan, how did you get your start in the music industry?
It was kind of like stumbling into a room full of craziness. I moved to New York in 1997.
Where are you originally from?
I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, northeastern Ohio. And I've been a musician since I was pretty young. Played bass and keyboards since I was about 9. Played in a bunch of bands. And so in 97 I felt like I wasn't really happy with the way things were going in my life in Ohio. Can't imagine why. So I packed up all my shit and I moved to New York City, and I thought I was going to do the musician thing. I hadn't even thought about producing or engineering or mixing or anything like that. I don't think I even really understood the concept back then. But I moved out here and I started working at a music store on 48th Street, and I was buying equipment to record my own bands. So I had a 1-inch 16-track Tascam tape machine and a 24x8 console, and we were recording some, kind of demo grade stuff. A friend who worked in one of the other departments at the store one day came up to me and said, "Hey, I know this client of mine who needs somebody to do some engineering work. I know you've been doing your own stuff, so maybe you'd be interested in doing it." Hell yeah, to make some extra money. It was a great idea. So I started to work with this guy. He turned out to be this guy named Stan Brown, who was with Island Records at the time. And he had worked on a lot of the Drew Hill stuff with Hiram Hicks, and so this guy was experienced and knew what he was doing. He had like a Mackie 32.8 with a sidecar and a bunch of DA98 recorders, which I didn't really even know how to use, but I figured it out fast enough, and we were just recording some kind of demo gospel stuff that he's working on to try to introduce to the label. It progressed with him to the point where we were recording some stuff with Dee Dee Warwick, Dion's sister, and Benjamin Love, who was a gospel R&B artist, and I kind of just cut my teeth. And once he moved on from Island Records, he moved over to Motown, and I started working on some of the stuff that they were doing for Motown, and that situation sort of just evolved, and I found myself a freelance engineer at that point. I felt like I could make some money, and I could make a living at it, and I thought I could be pretty good at it, so I decided to give it a try. I quit my day job and took a stab at it.
So without any real formal quote-unquote training in the music industry, what is your view on certain schooling for engineers or music business students and things like that?
I've met all kinds of people who've gotten in the music business with no training, people who've had lots of training, and I think it works for some people. It really depends on what your goals are, what job you want to do in this music business and how you want to jump in. I know that there are studios who won't hire anybody as an intern or assistant unless you've got a degree from Full Sail or one of these universities that offers those kind of courses. But I also know a lot of people who spend a lot of money on education, $40,000, $60,000, only to find out on the other end that they didn't really have the practical skills that they needed to get into, let's say specifically this market here in New York, in hip hop, where it's kind of like run and gun, man. I think that those schools offer a really valuable service or product. People who don't really have a concept of how all this stuff works can really learn a lot and get a good background so that they can understand what they need to do in order to make themselves, proficient to the point where they can actually start working, or they can introduce themselves in the music business in a market like this where it's really competitive. Yeah, sometimes I tell people that I don't think it's worth it for them to go ahead and get that kind of an education because of the expense and the amount of time that it takes. And I recommend to them that maybe it's better that they spend that money and that time working as an intern here in New York or LA at a studio that will have them, and they can learn from the folks there. And I actually teach students myself as well, so I can't really poo-poo the whole education thing, because I really believe that you have to learn how it's been done in the past in order to learn how you're going to apply your craft. Whether you're coming in just as an engineer or whether you're coming in as a producer and you want to make your own tracks, I think having some sort of an idea of how it's been done can kind of give you an idea of how you're going to do it. So yeah, I think it's valuable in that sense, but I think everybody should just be cautious if you're thinking about doing something like that, spending that kind of money on an education. Is it really going to help you in your goals? It's a serious question you got to ask yourself.
Coming up in the game, did you have any specific mentors?
Not really. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to study under another engineer, or I never worked as an assistant, I never worked as an intern, so it didn't work that way for me. There are people that I learned an awful lot from that I would probably put in a mentor category. One of those people would be Just Blaze. I mean, I've been working with him for nearly 8 years now, and I probably learned more from him than anyone else individually. You know, Just has this kind of like natural ability in the studio where he just sort of understands the way things work. He did a lot of engineering before he was, a big producer like he is now. So he had a fundamental understanding of how console and the patch bays and all the, outboard gear works. But he also has this really great built-in intuition that, serves him really well as a producer. So yeah, if I had to name somebody, it'd probably be him.
Alright, you worked on a lot of records now in your career. You have 9 platinum albums, 4 multi-platinum albums, and 5 Grammy nominations. A couple notable hits that you've mixed, Show Me What You Got, produced by Just Blaze by Jay-Z, as well as T.I.'s Live Your Life, featuring Rihanna, which is also produced by Just Blaze. Name some other credits that that you're really proud of.
Well, I'm really excited about this next project that's coming out, I think that's engineer-itis. They're always concerned about the next thing that's coming out, and everything they did before was crap or whatever. The next project that's coming out was also a Just Blaze project. It's Eminem's next record. I think it's going to be released in June 2010. I think we did some really good work on that. I worked on the 8 Mile record. That was my first platinum record, actually. I did the Opie Trice track I mixed for Red Spida. Wow, man, the 50 Cent's The Realist, which was a track a long time ago. I think that was in 2001 or 2000. That was one of the first tracks that I heard on the radio that I really felt like I did my thing on, so that was really exciting for me. Worked on Usher's Confessions in 2004. That was a really big record. That was my first Grammy nomination. Man, I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot. What's another really cool record that I'm proud of? And I'm proud of every record that I've done, but I really do feel like I'm finally getting to a place now, within the last year or so, where I'm doing work that I feel like is reaching the potential that I want to display. So I feel like I'm just kind of getting there. I'm 13 years into the business, and it seems like it's a really long time coming. But I think it's happening now.
Who are some of the producers and artists that you would like to work with in the future?
Man, I'm kind of living my fantasy at the moment. We just finished up working with Eminem for his next release. Working with Just Blaze. Just Blaze is one of the guys that I really did want to work with just because of his background and his proficiency. And working with him led me to work with Dr. Dre, a couple of times,
wow,
on a couple of different projects, and that was absolutely enormous for me. That was a dream come true. And then likewise, working with Eminem was also a dream come true for me. I mean, it's just kind of hard for me to believe, actually, that it's going down like that. So that was really exciting for me. I'm all over the place in terms of my musical taste. So growing up listening to rock and roll, I've always wanted to work with Elvis Costello. That would be really fantastic, to be able to have anything to do with any of his projects. I had this dream too at one point that I was going to move to England and try to get a job working with Peter Gabriel at his Real World Studios over there. That was a dream of mine for a long time. I'd still do it in a heartbeat. I think the guy is supremely talented. But like I said, man, I'm kind of getting to live the dream now. Getting to work with Eminem, having worked with Dr. Dre and with Usher, and I've worked with John Legend in the last year. Got a chance to work with Kanye West over the last year and a half, and like I said, it's fantasy, dude. And if somebody would have said, "What's your dream?" I might look at my own career and say that would be it.
Worked on everything from orchestrations to virtual sessions. That being said, I would imagine you're also a producer as well. Is that true?
I am. I mean, because I mix so much hip hop and because I record so much hip hop, people would kind of naturally assume that I'd be making beats. It's not something I've ever jumped into. I mean, can you imagine being Just Blaze's engineer and coming out with a whack beat? The career's kind of over at that point, right? So I